Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me. I'm back. This is not technically a brand new What If. This is What If Naofumi is the legendary hacker hero, the movie. This was originally done on the Golden Kingdom channel. That channel is currently being revamped into something brand new. I don't know how associated I am going to be with that, but I will be helping out if they want me to help out. I'll be doing stuff over there if they want me to do stuff over there. But it's not going to be called the Golden Kingdom anymore. It's gonna be called something else. It hasn't been changed quite yet, but I wanted to tell y'all ahead of time. So I'll be taking some of the what ifs that I did with some of the other people there as well, being that of Crown Fiend and Xplic. I'll be taking them, putting them on this channel. This is actually only up to season 1 of What If Naofumi, for Naofumi season, or the Naofumi anime, or the Shield Hero anime. I won't be going into season 2. I'm gonna tell you all this right now. If I ever do Shield Hero ever again, which I most likely will, I will not be going into season 2 of the Shield Hero ever again. I don't like season 2. I think it's kind of lame. Maybe if season 3 is really good, then we'll start doing all 3 seasons. But season 1 has a really near and dear spot in my heart, so I refuse to taint it with season 2. So if you ever see Naofumi What Ifs, you'll be seeing only season 1, because that's what I enjoy doing. So this is only to season 1, just so y'all know. And yeah, that's about it. Shout out to the boy Crown Fiend and Xplic. I mean, they were there when I made this. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. Sorry for the extremely long intro, but enjoy the video. Later. Fumi Iwatani, one of the most renowned hackers in his world, is about to basically unleash on one of the biggest heists to ever grace Japan. He's currently typing in code after code and note after note, and he's about to break into the biggest bank vault they've ever seen. And this is gonna be in complete silence. Yes, I'm almost done. Stop worrying so much. You know I have to worry. You're kind of the only reason why we're getting into this bank. You know that, right? Yeah, duh. Now Fumi continues to type more and more. Eventually, he's done. He clicks enter and the bank vaults continue to swing open. Now, all they have to do with their group of people is to get the money in or get the money out and back to their place immediately. They run in and begin scavenging the money, and now Fumi sees on the surveillance cams that there's nobody there. This is perfect. There was no silent alarm that went off, and it seems like he was able to cancel all of them. He looks back at his code and actually awes in his masterpiece. Now this was a good one. Perfect strategy, perfect execution. Just like always. He begins looking deeper into the coding though, and he sees some weird lettering. Wait, what the hell is that? The lettering gets bigger and bigger, and it reads something odd. And it really says though is hacker hero. The legendary hacker hero. What the? I did not put that in the code. He looks behind him and he sees that this odd bright light is covering him now. In an instant, Naofumi is gone. He's next to 3 other people with weapons in their hands, and he looks at his arm to see that there's a shield on it. What? Why do I have a shield stuck to my arm? And it doesn't feel like it's coming off. The other 3 are confused as well, seeing that they have weapons in their hands too. They look toward the people that begin to speak. I'm sorry to basically bring you in like this, but you have been summoned. The king wants to speak with you. All 4 of them immediately agree on the fact that they better have some good rewards, especially for the fact that they just got sucked out of their own world to be wherever they are. This then leads them to having a meeting with the king himself, but even Naofumi can tell that there is malice within the king, and malice is obviously toward himself. He's wondering why the king would be so angry with him. He doesn't even know who he is, but that's beyond the point. The king just explains the world, that there is impending doom. These waves, basically a series of demonic invasions, that they are basically crashing and burning this world to the ground. And he says that tomorrow,
In the next day, they'll be given a party, or people will choose to join their party, and they'll be set off to basically destroy these waves to stop them in its tracks. And they say that they need rewards, and need them badly, and that if they don't fork up, well, you could say that they're gonna become their enemies. And the king says that, of course, that they're gonna be rewarded handsomely for defeating the waves. They're then sent off to their own little motel rooms, and they begin speaking about what's going on. Naofumi just talks about that he doesn't know too much about video games, but he's played a little bit here and there, but he does not admit to the fact that he used to be, or is, a hacker. They don't need to know that, and a lot of gamers have this stigma toward hackers, calling them cheaters, and frankly he doesn't want that stigma, at least not right now. They talk for a bit, and eventually the next day does arrive, and when they arrive in front of the king, tons of people stand in front of them. But when they choose who they want to join, Naofumi has nobody at all. He sees that nobody chose him, and he says that that is kind of ridiculous. But the king says that is the choice of the other people, but a young lady does say that she would like to switch teams, that she would like to switch to the shield hero. Her name is Mine, and Naofumi thanks her for switching, but that thank will basically go downhill pretty quickly. Naofumi refuses to tell her anything about him being a hacker, since this world is so familiar, since it's so similar to a video game and all of this coding, he doesn't want to tell her anything about that just in case. And this would come out to be a very good idea. After getting some armor from Earhart and also armor for herself, well, they go out and begin training. Naofumi tinkers with his shield as she says that he should really start working on getting some levels, and he says he agrees. He just wants to basically look into any of the shield's abilities that he could possibly use right now. But what she doesn't know is Naofumi is currently hacking into his shield and seeing if he can boost his level to max, or also basically level up all the way to basically have all his shields. And that's what he does. He gets all of his shields unlocked, seeing that the Curse series unfortunately is not being able to unlock, and there's some other stuff that is shaded that is impossible to get. But with that said, it seems very interesting to him. He definitely has gotten his hacking abilities transferred over to whatever world this is, and he does some extra things as well, adding nice little cameras into his shield, of course, and even infinite storage, as a matter of fact. They then begin training, and Naofumi actually is able to get levels slightly faster than he would ever in canon, but he does have some blowback. At the end of the day, he doesn't necessarily have anything too crazy, and he hasn't had enough time to really hack into his shield to give himself anything that would destroy these monsters, these small balloon-like animals or small balloon-like monsters, quick enough to farm XP really fast. But after the day is over, they both decide to head to a motel and basically get some rest. But before that, they actually get some food and begin to drink. Naofumi, not being much of a drinker, says that he doesn't really want to. But he does notice something. She was very insistent on him drinking. So he even records basically him saying that he doesn't want to drink and that he doesn't drink at all and that she drinks the rest. He leaves and makes sure that his recording on the shield was completely active the entire night. And when he wakes up to see that there is nothing in his room, he realizes that this was a good idea. Damn it, I knew that girl was a swine. I could tell from the beginning. They take him to the throne room and he begins to get chastised. They keep saying that he's a rapist and that Mine was thankfully saved by Motoyasu, but Naofumi slightly smirks and begins laughing at them. It's crazy. You're trying to out-hustle a hustler. If any of you actually knew who I was and were, well, raised in my world, you would have known that this trick wouldn't have worked in a million years. He taps his shield and a video comes up. This is the video of me all night, and as you can see, Mine comes into my room, takes all my stuff, and well, I don't even come out. I was sleeping all night. How about it? He clicks the shield again, And everybody is kind of shocked. But Motoyasu refuses to believe this, but Itsuki and Ren step up and say that this is blatant, that it's obvious that Mine tried to set him up, and they say that Naofumi is to be let go now, and that that's an order. The king basically tells them to F off and basically says that they have no right to say such a thing. But Ren immediately takes out his sword and says that he really doesn't like when people lie, especially lie about something like rape, and that he will make sure to keep this as a known thing for the girl over there. They allow Naofumi to leave, Ren and Itsuki obviously, and he walks away, saying that you can't out-hustle a hustler. He leaves, and immediately Naofumi knows that unfortunately the kingdom won't always believe this, and that word is probably being spread currently at this moment. So he immediately heads to Erhard in hopes that he can find a way to get himself some weaponry. Maybe he can hack some for himself. So he goes to Erhard, and Erhard pins him up against the wall, and he turns on the video immediately, showing that none of that even happened. Erhard lets him down and apologizes, and he says that it's fine. He gets it. She's a true hustler, but unfortunately you can't out-hustle him. Erhard nods, and they head back into a shop and begin speaking. He begins to basically show him different weapons, and Naofumi picks one up and gets shocked. But he does think about something. He begins hacking his shield, breaking the encoding that would force him to not be able to use other weapons, and he picks up the short sword once again, and there it is. He can pick it up. He says that he wants one of every single of these weapons, and he'd appreciate that, and he can actually get him money pretty soon. And Erhard says that as an apology and for a hero discount, he'll hook him up for a low price. So he hooks him up for only about 100 silver, and he gets tons of weapons for it. Luckily, Naofumi has some money left over in his shield, hidden in a storage unit, of course. She only really stole his armor, none of his money. He heads off, and after thanking Erhard, he begins training with various weapons. A sword, an axe, and various other things like a mace, but none of them really feel right to him. This shield feels good, but maybe a light tomahawk or a light axe would be nice. So he begins using the axe and feels that this is pretty nice. So he begins slicing and dicing more of these balloon-like animals, but even himself, he realizes that this weapon is kinda weak, and it's kinda hard to upgrade it. So he begins hacking into it, seeing if he can get it upgraded. Unfortunately, he can't figure out the encoding for letting other weapons be upgraded like the legendary weapon he has, so he just puts it away for now and uses his shield to actually group up a ton of monsters and kill them en masse. He makes all the balloons basically follow him, and he gets them all into a group, immediately using a shield prison and adjusting his shield prison to have a really sharp edge to it. The inside is full of spikes, and he closes the shield prison and he kills all of the monsters inside immediately. He smiles and sees his XP go up like crazy, and he actually finds a way to actually just boost his XP temporarily, giving him a 2x booster through his use of hacking, but unfortunately he can't get anything above that. But once he learns more and more, maybe he'll be able to boost his XP to max immediately. But even with that said, the night is over and he had some decent gains in XP. He heads back to his motel, but he's stalked by a bunch of bandits. These bandits try their best to fight him, but frankly, they get put in a shield prison, tossed around, knocked out, and it's a wrap. It won't matter. They don't really stand a chance. They didn't stand a chance in the first place, and they definitely don't now. So he lets them go as they're kind of knocked out, and he kind of just drags them over to, on the other side of the kingdom, leaving them there and then walking back. Someone does approach him though. This would be a lot easier if you had some backup. Maybe something that, couldn't disobey you. Naofumi hears this and looks at him, saying what does he have in mind, and he waves his hand and brings him in, showing Naofumi tons and tons of slaves. Slaves? Damn, that's kind of brutal, even for a mythical world like this. But I mean, I guess so. How much is that big beast over there? The man explains that that beast is worth 75 gold. But Naofumi has nowhere near that, and he says that he'll take the little raccoon girl. Maybe he can train her to be something truly great. And he says, and the slave market owner says that if he'd love to see that, especially someone like her, someone completely on death's door. And Naofumi shrugs, buys the girl, and drags her out with the slave crest on her. He explains to her to not worry, that the slave crest will be gone pretty quickly once he figures out how to basically erase it. And she's confused to hear this, and he says that all he needs is her to help in his quest to defeat the waves. Trust me, this will be far easier than you would ever expected. Anything that's ever happened to you in your past, that won't happen again. I promise you that. He takes Raftalia away, and they begin training after they get some weaponry for her. They start their training, and Raftalia gets over her fear relatively quickly, and over this time, Naofumi actually learns how Raftalia's leveling works. He's not so sure about how his works, but he's actually able to boost Raftalia's level immediately all the way to level 40 until he's not able to do so anymore. This makes it so that in a matter of days, Raftalia is already a grown adult, and Naofumi's actually shocked to see this, and she explains that this is basically how the demi-human race works, and he's pretty shocked to see it, but he's pretty intrigued that that's a pretty good idea, and now she might even be able to fight way better, that she's not, a short girl. In which he immediately gets her a new sword and stuff like that, but he's kind of broke now. So he asks Erhard if he knows any places that, he could get some quick cash. So Erhard basically tells him to go to a village of loot, and that they might have a nice mine there that he can find some good ores. In which this is confirmed when he talks to the locals, in which most of the locals kind of drool over Raftalia and just give her whatever she wants. They head over eventually to the mine and begin pickaxing any valuable materials they can find, and that's until they both see these footprints, these dog footprints, and they actually see a two-headed dog. Hey, that's just like one of my shields. Check it out. The dog jumps down, but Naofumi activates his dog shield, or his two-headed dog shield, and when he does, the dog actually slows down and is confused. He walks up to the dog shield, and immediately the dogs on that shield attack him, and Raftalia comes in as well, slicing its head off immediately. Raftalia immediately breaking free of this scared trance that she would be put in. She's far stronger than that monster, and frankly, at the moment, she's stronger than Naofumi. But that won't be forever, you could say. After learning more and more throughout the entire month of preparations, leveling up, and stuff like that, Naofumi figured out a way to actually increase his level, getting him to about a level 40, but it seems like there's extra encoding when he wants to level up past that. So at the moment, he's level 40, Raftalia is level 40, and they're pretty happy with that as well. But they do hear of something interesting, that they can get a class upgrade, and that Raftalia can get even stronger. So Naofumi wants to check it out, so he heads to the Dragon Hourglass to see what's up. He goes there and he sees that the other three heroes are there, and Motoyasu greets him terribly. He does not like Naofumi very much, but Ren and Itsuki don't really care. They're actually not so bad in terms of around Naofumi, and they say that they have respect for him as well. And he appreciates that, and he says he respects them too, just not the oaf over here. And they kind of laugh at this, and Motoyasu gets kind of mad. And he says that he shouldn't have Raftalia, that girl right there. That doesn't make sense. And Naofumi tells him to back up, to be careful because Raftalia is a biter. She might just bite one of his fingers off. And he kind of backs up, kind of scared, and Raftalia bites toward him. They both kind of laugh, and they say that they're here to check out the Dragon Hourglass and also the wave. And they see that there's only 24 hours left until that next wave. But they also talk about getting a class upgrade for Raftalia. And Ren and Itsuki are shocked. She's already level 40? That's insane. What kind of training were you guys doing? He says that basically the training was fruitful. He doesn't know how to explain what he was doing. Again, he doesn't really play much video games. But, he knows his way around a little bit now. And they say that the Dragon Hourglass can get a class upgrade, but unfortunately, they're kind of nobody here to invoke that. And he says that it's fine. Since it's so close to the wave, it's not really a big deal. but he does look around and thinks to himself that maybe he can hack into the Dragon Hourglass remotely, and he won't even have to come back here ever again, especially with all the dirty looks he gets from everybody. It's kind of annoying. So him and Raphtalia head off and decide that they should do some last minute arrangements for the wave, and maybe it would be a good idea to actually set up shop at Loot Village, and they do just that. But Raphtalia asks why that guy, the Motoyasu guy, hates him so much, and Naofumi explains that he got accused of falsely raping somebody. He has videotape of proof that it didn't happen, but, you know, these people are kinda dumb. And Raphtalia is shocked to hear this and says that she would never think Naofumi would ever do something like that anyways, that is so outlandish, and Naofumi says that she knows him better than anybody else, so it's kinda hard to say that for everybody, you know? And she nods and says that she understands, and they head to Loot Village for the 24 hours, getting ready for the wave of catastrophe. After the day ends, it's now time for the first wave. Immediately, tons and tons of monsters begin pouring out of the wave, and it seems like there's just tons of skeleton-like monsters, zombies, hornets, anything you can think of. But Naofumi easily is able to gather them all up, putting them in shield prisons, and using other various weapons he has at his disposal, even though they aren't at least the strongest at the moment. Naofumi just easily wipes through tons of them, and so does Raphtalia. Raphtalia is extremely strong. Actually, if we're taking it in terms of canon, she's twice as strong as she was in canon at this point, and she is just destroying anything that comes, and eventually, the wave is over. Frankly, Loot Village doesn't need help. They never called for help. Naofumi and Raphtalia were there the whole time, so there was no need for the other idiots to join them anyways, and luckily, everything goes exactly to plan, and Naofumi gets some good XP. And he says that, and he tells Raphtalia basically not to worry, that they'll figure out this whole Dragon Hourglass thing in the near future, and he'll make sure she gets her upgrade. Raphtalia is kind of curious about this though. How does that even work? How did he get so strong? Like, what is he doing? And he explains and tells her not to tell another soul unless he gives permission, and she nods, and he says that he's kind of a hacker. He can hack into certain things, and since this is kind of like a video game, which I'm sure she doesn't know much about, this is very hackable. Everything is based around code and stuff like that, and she is completely in awe, and says that Naofumi must be extremely smart, and he says that he's not that smart, he just knows his way around a computer. And he kind of smiles and says that it's time for them to go get some food and to celebrate for their awesome win. So they begin to head off, and they're actually invited to a hero state dinner, in which Naofumi actually decides that why not, he should go get some nice grub, and it'll be a nice rest for Raphtalia. So they both just hang out and eat, but this would all go to basically hell really quickly. Motoyasu, being the almighty person he thinks he is, basically is informed by Mine that Raphtalia is a slave, prompting him to challenge Naofumi, and Naofumi says that that's a horrible idea. He doesn't want to challenge him, that's just dumb. Motoyasu refuses to take no for an answer. Eventually they grab Raphtalia, but she breaks free immediately. Don't touch me, that's a horrible idea, I'll cut off your arm. Raphtalia tells them immediately, and they're terrified of her now. He explains that he'll do the duel, but if they touch Raphtalia, all things are off and all these guards will drop dead. And, well, Motoyasu says that that's fine, that all they need to do is duel. Even though Raphtalia continues to tell them that she's not technically a slave, and that she doesn't even have the slave crest on because Naofumi got rid of it via his hacking skill. But she doesn't tell him that he's a hacker because, you know, they're gonna be like, he's cheating. But he did get rid of her slave crest a while ago. But when the duel begins, it's pretty much over instantly. Naofumi covers him in a shield prison and he can't get out. The shield prison is extremely durable, and frankly, he has no means of breaking free, and if he uses one of his strong attacks, it could backfire on him and hurt himself. But Motoyasu thinks that he outsmarted Naofumi, that he can actually just hang out in this shield prison until Naofumi gets tired. Well, that's a bad idea. Actually, a really bad one. Naofumi keeps him in that shield prison, yes, but he mocks him. Oh, really? You think you're gonna, out-stamina me? You're gonna outpace me. That is really funny, actually, Motoyasu. So what would happen if I started putting blades in that shield prison? Blades then appear, and you can hear the sound of, swords going off in the prison. Now, what if this? Now, hear me out. What if I started to push those blades toward you, Motoyasu? The blades start going slowly but surely toward Motoyasu, and Motoyasu begins to scream in terror. Now, one more thing. I know, and hear me out when I say this, okay? Hear me out. Now, what if I take those blades and they start pushing through your body? Before Naofumi can actually do this, a blast of magic comes soaring toward him, but he immediately screams, "Airstrike shield!" An airstrike shield blocks the blast, and Naofumi just shrugs at mine. That was a good try. Really good try. But if you wanted to duel, you could have just joined him. But that's beyond the point. Now, Motoyasu, would you like to yield or would you like to die? Either one will definitely suffice because, frankly, I'm trying to get out of here. There's no food for me to eat here, and this duel is getting boring. Motoyasu says that he yields, so Naofumi lets him go and tells Raphtalia that it's time to leave. Raphtalia runs off with him, and they immediately just leave. And everybody is shocked to see this, and so are the other two heroes. They knew Naofumi was strong, but God, he is at another level at this moment, and it seems like he's gonna just exponentially get stronger and stronger, and that they need to work harder so they can keep up with him. But then Naofumi decides to actually use the money that he gets from the king, which is not a lot because he's a prick. The money he gets from the king to actually get a new partner. You know, we could get another slave, Raphtalia, and then I could just get rid of the slave crest. It's really not that big of a deal. And Raphtalia says that she doesn't know if they should be wasting money like that, and Naofumi says that it's fine. That once he figures out how to hack the money, which if it's possible or not, or copy the money and clone it, it'll be alright. And she kind of laughs at this statement, and they actually meet up with the slave merchant once again. And they find that there are these gacha eggs. He explains that there is a chance to get an amazing dragon, but also at least can get a Filolial. And they decide why not. They buy the gacha egg, put the slave crest on it, and since it is a monster, Naofumi considers having the slave crest on at least for now, just in case. But he immediately, when they leave and head to the motel room, he starts hacking into the egg system, especially because it's connected to him. He begins hacking into it, and it immediately makes the egg hatch. He's shocked to see this, and the egg immediately imprints upon Naofumi, and they bring what they name to be Philo outside, and they begin to grow her even more, hacking her level, increasing it, and doing all the stuff that he did for Raphtalia, making her a level 40, and immediately she changes into a giant bird, a giant Filolial, but then immediately to a small little girl who's kinda doesn't have clothes on, so he throws over his cape around her and says that they kinda need to figure that out. With some explaining out of the way in terms of explaining to Philo what just happened, they begin to head to Loot Village to ask them maybe if they have any spare clothing that is nice for a little girl, in which they do, and Naofumi asks if she could basically grow and not break her clothing, and Philo shakes her head and says that's impossible, that any regular clothing would definitely shatter instantly. So Naofumi decides that he'll try his best to maybe adjust the clothing that it can form to her body perfectly, in which this works out really well. And he's surprised to see this, but he does notice that it's kind of ugly. So he says that he'll get her some good clothing very soon, and maybe they can talk to Earhart about it. Philo hops on Naofumi's back, and Raphtalia gets kind of jealous, and Naofumi kind of shrugs and apologizes. You're a little too big to be on my back, Raphtalia. I feel like you know that too. Raphtalia kind of blushes, and they head off to basically go to Earhart. But when they go to do this, there's actually royal guards outside with Motoyasu and mine, declaring that, well, this place is actually under the rule of Motoyasu now. And Naofumi says that that's just not the case. That they can actually duel again if they want, and when Naofumi wins again, he's not allowed to do it. And Mine says that that just sounds ridiculous and that she will not be commanded by some dastardly, but as she's about to say, shield hero, someone appears in front of her, giving her a slip. And it's actually a shadow from the queen, telling her that she actually can't do this. And unfortunately, this forces Mine to back down, in which she doesn't want to at all. Motoyasu walks away and says that he'll never basically back down from a rapist. And immediately Philo grows in size and kicks Motoyasu, saying, "I don't know what a rapist is, but I won't let you call Master Naofumi bad things." So she kinda kicks him in the nuts and also straight up into the sky. But with that said, they all run over to Motoyasu, being like, "Motoyasu, Motoyasu," to see if he's okay. And that leads to Naofumi asking Erhard about, obviously, getting a dress for Philo, in which they find out that, well, you could say that it's not that easy. They get sent to a dressmaker, which they need this magical thread, which they don't have that either. So they go to this magical shop owner, and there's no thread over in the magical shop either. So they actually have to hunt for this magical gemstone for her loom. So that is a vital part to make magical thread. So they begin to leave with a large carriage connected to Philo, in which she loves that carriage a lot. Eventually they run across this wealthy trader, and obviously they give him a ride, pretty much for free, but when the bandits attack him, they definitely want something from him. They immediately defeat the bandits, it's not even close, and they threaten them with Philo that she's basically gonna eat their heads off if they don't say good things about the shield hero. So luckily they listen, because frankly Philo was a little bit hungry. And the trader is impressed, telling Naofumi that he'll teach him all his skills and all his contacts. He'll help him out the best he possibly can so he can make that sweet, sweet cash. And Naofumi is down with it. He's happy to hear this, and he's going to definitely keep in contact with the trader. But in the meantime, Naofumi and his party continue to search for the magical gemstone, and he actually continues tinkering with his leveling system and levels himself up to level 60 and says that he feels pretty comfortable being at level 60, so he should be alright. Both Philo and Rautalia say that they want to know their pathways, they want to gain that new option, and Naofumi says that he's actually been working on that and he's almost ready, and they should be ready pretty soon, maybe in the next week or so. He apologizes that it's taken so long, but this will be more beneficial, and they say that it's completely fine. They then arrive at this place, this new place, and it's this odd cave of some sorts, finding that this alchemist's tomb that was housing a cursed seed is actually gone. Now Fumi realizes that this is definitely not good, but he kind of ignores it for now, and they begin to go through the tunnels. Eventually, after fighting these bat-like monsters, they locate the gem where the new is currently nested, a fierce monster that could take down anything, and he's dead. Well, Naofumi kind of threw it in a shield prison and kind of put spikes around it and smashed him into nothingness. But Naofumi says that next time Philo and Rautalia can have some fun, because that was kind of unfulfilling. And with that idea though, something comes to mind, and he tells Rautalia to grab the gemstone and hop back into the carriage, and that they'll head off immediately. He actually has an idea that will benefit both of them greatly. So they hop back in the carriage and begin heading back to get obviously Philo's dress, but during this time, he cracks the code for other weapons. He figures out how to upgrade the axe that he wants to use. Yeah, a shield and an axe. See, this is more fun. Here, Rautalia, give me your weapon. He begins to tinker with her weapon as well, and it actually makes an insane sword. A sword that can be leveled up passively throughout the entire time, or he can hack into it right now and give her a really, really strong sword. She says that there's no reason for him to actually upgrade his sword or her sword immediately, so she wants to hang out with it and maybe learn it a little bit more, and she doesn't want to rush into an ultimate sword immediately. And he says that's a good idea, and that sounds like some true warrior stuff. So Naofumi does the same. Instead of just immediately upgrading his axe all the way. He wants to get a hold of it for a bit, and then maybe he can slowly but surely upgrade his and Raphtalia's sword. So they begin the process of getting Philo her dress, finishing that up, and once that's over, they get a mission by the trader, and it's actually to deliver a herbicide to a village. And once Naofumi hears this, he thinks about the seed he saw. Oh no, this is not good, huh? They head over to that said village to find that, well, there are monstrous plants running about like crazy. Naofumi is able to kill them easily on the way there, but when they arrive at the village, they begin explaining that the spear hero Motoyasu used this seed, this cursed seed, to end their local famine, and obviously that didn't work out too well. Naofumi says that he has it all handled. He can actually deal with this pretty easily and tells them not to worry about it. He makes this antidote for this monster plant, basically, making it so that this plant would immediately just disintegrate, but the seeds of the plant would stay to a certain point that it won't evolve super fast. They go to the plant, and frankly, it's not much of a challenge. The plant is disintegrated, and like I said, now they have infinite food because these seeds are modified to the point where it's perfect for harvesting. Now Fumi, though, does take copies of these seeds, believing that it could help in the future for other villages, and maybe he could sell them off. Maybe he can get some nice money for these seeds, and he does think that this is a good idea. Putting the seeds away, especially in his infinite storage unit, and heads off to his next mission, which is just to drop off this special or this merchandise to a hot springs, in which they stay, relax, have some quality, quote-unquote, family or party time. And after this, they do get another mission, or more accurately, a cry for help from another town. This town is under severe damage. Damage that the sword hero caused. The sword hero killed this dragon, and didn't dispose of it properly. Like an idiot he is, and Naofumi is kind of annoyed by this. He gives all the towns some medicine, anything he can scrounge up, and says that that is only a temporary fix, but he's gonna go dispose of the dragon the best he possibly can. And when him and his party head up there, it seems like the dragon is still alive. But actually, it's not. Not quite alive, but it's undead. The dragon is now a zombie and begins attacking Naofumi, Raphtalia, and even Philo, and Naofumi is able to block it as best he possibly can using his shield and also using his airstrike shields. He begins to spam airstrike shields all around the dragon, and the dragon is basically unable to do anything in this entire time. Philo and Raphtalia begin hitting it, as in there's slight gaps between the shields or the airstrike shields, so they begin stabbing through it, and Naofumi does the same thing, taking his axe, cranking up the level just a little bit to add that extra kick, and he strikes down onto the dragon, and frankly they're able to defeat it relatively easily, and actually something comes flying out of its stomach, a small shard. He picks up this shard and injects it into his shield and sees that he just got a large boost in strength, especially to the dragon-like shields that he has in his repertoire already. He's actually happy to see this and says that he can clean this mess up pretty quickly. He slices the dragon up and then puts it into shield prisons and begins rolling it off the mountain. Thanks Philo and thanks Raphtalia, that should be easy. They all head down the mountain and tell him that they actually cleaned it up relatively quickly, not telling them that the whole dragon kinda came back to life and started trying to kill them. They feel like that probably wouldn't be the best idea to tell the folks of, well, this town. But they dispose of the dragon nonetheless and even get a nice little power boost from it. Naofumi, though, does explain that it might be about that time that Raphtalia and Philo actually get their class upgrades, in which they're both excited to hear. They want their class upgrades really badly, and he explains that he just needs to analyze the Dragon Hourglass a little bit more, and then maybe he can actually hack into it and do what he wants. So they head off in that direction, but before they can actually get there, Philo makes friends with somebody by the name of Melty. Melty loves Philolials, and Naofumi thinks that she's a pretty good girl. So when she asks to accompany him to the capital, he obviously says yes and says that there's really no problem. And he does look at her kind of oddly. "You look really familiar, Miss Melty. I'm not so sure why, but you really do. Maybe I'll figure out later." They head off to the capital, and when they arrive, Naofumi, Philo, and also Raphtalia head over to get their class upgrades, but just how Naofumi thought, they're stopped. They're not allowed to go in, but Naofumi gets enough information that he can actually replicate this hourglass of some sorts, and he tells Raphtalia and Philo not to worry about it. They head out of the hourglass, and they're met by, well, you could call him Naofumi's arch nemesis, Motoyasu himself, the human punching bag. Motoyasu tries to fight Naofumi, but it's not even close, and Naofumi just dodges over and over again and blocks him into a shield prison once again. And Melty shows up actually, saying that fighting is prohibited, especially in this area, and tells them all to stop. Naofumi raises his hands and lets him go. "Hey, I apologize. That's my fault. I shouldn't have put him in the prison. He was trying to stab me." You know what I'm saying? Melty kind of tries not to laugh, but she nods toward Naofumi, and she begins to explain to him that she is actually the heir apparent to the throne. That Melty is the older sister, or obviously what they know as mine. She's the older sister, but her toxic personality has caused her to go down the ladder. She is no longer the heir apparent to that throne, and that she will be obviously sitting on the throne one day when her mother passes on to the next life. And Melty says that she'd love to help the shield hero the best she possibly can, and Naofumi says that he appreciates the help, but there's not much she can do. I mean, he does kinda need money, so if she can hook up money, then that would be appreciated. But other than that, he doesn't really need much help. She says that she will definitely get him a reward, especially for guiding her to the capital, so she'll get right on that. Damn, really? I knew I liked you, Melty. That's what I'm talking about. You hear them? You hear her? That's awesome. Both Raphtalia and Philo thank her graciously for the money, and she says that it's truly no problem at all. They have plenty of it at the moment, and Naofumi says that they do need to start getting ready for the wave, so that's what he's going to start doing. He immediately unlocks, obviously, Raphtalia and Philo's class upgrades and gives them both of the paths that they want. Gives them some special techniques, and Raphtalia and Philo are psyched to hear this, saying that they thought they only could get one, but Naofumi puts his hands up and just looks away as if he didn't do anything. But Raphtalia and Philo know exactly what he did, and then he maxes their levels out to 60, and they're ready for their next class upgrade, in which obviously he says that there's no reason to have that right now, because frankly they're more than prepared. Trust me. So they head off and begin to scout out town after town to find out anything they possibly could, at least before the next wave, finding these starving refugees who fled a revolution that was started by Itsuki. So before coming back for the next wave, he actually helps them start up a giant farm so that they never go hungry again. Their base camp turns into basically a town. They thank the shield hero profusely, saying that he's the best hero and that they had no doubt that he would come and save them. And he just smiles and says that there's really no need to thank him, that he's not going to just walk by some refugees that are begging for food. And they thank him once again, and he says that he has to go, but he promises to visit once again. But he does need to go fight a wave. They thank him, obviously, over and over again, and Naofumi kind of just smiles and walks away with his party. But before the next wave actually begins, Naofumi encounters Ren and Itsuki, in which they do accuse him of stealing their rewards, but Naofumi says that that's just not the case, that Itsuki started a revolution, but actually forced them to turn into refugees, fleeing that country anyways, and now they were starving. And Itsuki is shocked to see this, or hear this, and says that he never meant for that to happen, and he said the same thing for Ren, that Ren slayed a dragon, but left the corpse. You can't leave corpses. They don't decay like that. They don't just disappear. This is no video game, guys. So I had to go in, destroy the corpse, yada yada yada, and do all that stuff. And Ren is shocked to hear this as well, and they both are actually pretty apologetic. They say that they're sorry and that to make sure that they'll keep that in mind next time. And Naofumi says that's good to hear and basically bids them a good day because he obviously needs to get everything set for that next wave. And that whole thing with the Loot Village party happens once again, in which he actually personally buys them the armor, and they head down to Loot Village with 24 hours away from the next wave. During this next wave though, the wave of catastrophe isn't too hard at all. Frankly, it's easy. The wave is practically nothing, and he wonders why it's taking them so long to defeat the boss. So Naofumi tells Raphtalia and Philo that they're gonna head up there and check on the other heroes and ask if they can hold it down here. And they say, of course, that this should be easy enough, so Philo, Raphtalia, and Naofumi head up and see the other heroes arguing. And Ren and Itsuki are actually telling Motoyasu that they should be brainstorming ideas to defeat this monster, but Motoyasu, being his ignorant self, is saying that he doesn't need their help and keeps trying to defeat the Dutchman. But Naofumi walks over and says that it's that thing right there, pointing at something in front of Itsuki and telling him that to shoot at that little shadow. He does just that, and when he hits it, it actually reveals the monster that they've been looking for, the Soul Eater. Immediately, they try to strike it down, but the other heroes have no chance against it. Naofumi, on the other hand, puts it into an Iron Maiden, saying that this is a cooler version of the one he was using earlier, and completely obliterates the monster in an instant. See guys, that wasn't that hard. But as he says this, another Soul Eater appears, and Naofumi goes to destroy it, but someone impales the Soul Eater with various beams of light, and she becomes floating down from the sky. Whoa, are you some dark angel? You look really cool, by the way. Naofumi remarks in a very comfortable manner, and Glass scoffs at this, telling him not to be so relaxed. She immediately knocks out the other three heroes and tells him that she obviously should be taken seriously. Look, don't get me wrong, you're pretty cool. But also, that wasn't really a show of power. I probably could have done that right now, and I just have a shield. Well, also an axe, a sword, a mace, also a bow, but the bow kind of sucks. She then cuts him off once again and tells him to stop taking her so lightly, and then he puts her in a shield prison and looks at his shield. Oh, you have a leveling system too? Now that's interesting. Now what happens if I do this? He begins scroll wheeling down into his shield, and it begins to lower her level more and more and more. Now, you can try to break out. Trust me, I know, you seem like a very resilient woman. But here's the thing, you're not going to be able to. It's indestructible, more or less, and you're practically at level 1. She's confused at what he's saying and sees that her level is completely obsolete, and it seems like all her strength is basically at a form of her just being a human. Okay, Miss Raven Invader, whatever you want to call yourself. May I know your name? I'm Glass. Okay, Glass. It's a pleasure to meet you. Naofumi. I'm the shield hero, as you can see. I just wanted to know, are you a monster? I don't think so. You seem like a human, of course. But where are you coming from? Like, why are you here in this world? Glass just completely shuts up and doesn't say a word. Look, it would be a lot easier if you talked to me. It'd probably speed up the process as well. Or I could turn this entire shield prison into a bunch of spikes, and you'd probably die relatively quick. But I don't want to do that. Please don't force my hand to do that. You seem like a nice girl. I don't want to do that to you. Glass rolls her eyes inside the prison and says that she's from another world. A world that has come here to kill them. And that if she can't kill them, that their world is screwed. That it's going to basically die. Oh, really? Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Yeah, okay. He lets her go immediately and she's confused. Look, I know I joke around, I mess around a lot, but I don't want your world to die, but I also don't want me to die. I don't really care about them, to be honest with you. And then my party members, please don't kill them. But maybe we can figure this out. We can figure something out, like save your world, save my world type of thing. Look, it might be outlandish, and I'm sure it's outlandish to you, but I'm guarantee you we can figure something out. Both of his party members both nod in agreement, saying that that is completely true. Naofumi has really amazing powers and that they can figure something out. Glass is confused and asks why they would even help her. She just came in to kill them. But Naofumi says that he's been helping people a lot recently, and he really likes the way it feels, but he also really likes money. So it's kind of, give and take there. But Naofumi says that if she goes off to her world back again, maybe they can figure something out, and they can meet once again when the next wave arrives, or whenever that is. She is not sure if this is mercy of some sorts, or she's being played as a fool, but she is going to take the opportunity to leave, because blatantly obvious that Naofumi has the upper hand by a long shot. So she decides to head off and takes her leave, and says that she will be back, and that she'll be able to talk to Naofumi very soon. With all that said and done, Naofumi is brought in to the king's quarters, or obviously the throne room. Immediately the king accuses him of hiding something from them, and Naofumi does say he is. The other heroes are shocked to hear this, and he looks at Ren and Itsuki and says that he'll only talk about it if they are alone. Ren, Itsuki, and Naofumi, not the king, not Motoyasu. He doesn't want to deal with them. The king, on the other hand, disagrees with this, saying he better say it now or he'll make sure to punish his party members, even though he can't punish him. But Naofumi, hearing this, immediately walks over to the king and says that if he wanted to, he can kill him right now. But he'll resist. He will. Out of respect. Well, not for him, but for his daughter. So keep that in mind. The only reason why you're alive is because of your youngest daughter. But no excuse for mine. I'll probably end up taking her life. That's if she crosses the line a little bit too much. Naofumi goes to walk away and waves for Ren and Itsuki to follow him and tells Motoyasu that he can, sit his behind right where he is. And as he opens the doors, Naofumi knows that, this world is about to change a hell of a lot. And it's all because of him.
As he walks out the door, Naofumi is approached by some woman some sort of maiden woman, and she hands him a strange emblem. The emblem of the Three Heroes Church, it looks like. As he sees this, he then looks over at Itsuki and Ren, walking over to them and dragging them into a small corridor, where he explains what his powers are and pretty much why he's so powerful. Explaining that he is just able to level up a lot quicker and is kind of just built different. Not explaining that he's a hacker or that he pretty much cheated the system and gave himself awesome abilities. He explains that he's just kind of, a different kind of shield hero, and that he's just better and just able to level up better, which they buy and do kind of understand. After this, Naofumi gets some equipment and gets supplies for them to head on the road, as he and his party head off, going onto the road. As he's kind of on the road, he is approached by Melty, who asks him if he can reconcile with her father, in which he tells her that her father is pretty much intolerable and too stubborn to reconcile with. He would, but he's just too dumb really to understand, and which, before she can really question anything or can argue his case any further, one of the soldiers then start charging towards Melty, ready to attack her, before they are all pretty much get a bunch of arrows shot into them. Nope, I need to figure out what's going to happen there. As the soldier prepares to attack Melty, He is stopped as he sees some strange glow in front of Naofumi, who steps in front of Melty at this time. He's a bit confused before a bunch of swords, spears, axes, and multiple other bladed weapons shoot out like a machine gun, shooting down and cutting down all of the soldiers immediately like a railgun or machine gun on steroids, but with a bunch of blades instead of bullets, shredding them like minced cheese, pretty much making them unrecognizable to their families when they head home. If you're wondering how that happened, he pretty much went into his inventory and copied all of his swords and weapons by an absolute heck ton, like he pretty much had the Gates of Babylon from the Fate series, if you know what that is. So yeah, this man is god there. So after this, Melty is a bit concerned, but she now is questioning why they were attacking her, and Naofumi just says it straight up: your horrible sister is probably assassinating you. So Melty decides, well, we should go to see her and confirm that. Naofumi's like, nah chief, that ain't happening. So they go and pretty much hide away, with all the royal capital and everyone being told that Naofumi has kidnapped the princess and shredded up all the soldiers like minced cheese, killing them all, and is a horrible person. With everyone hearing this, they are all against the shield hero, not only because he's the devil of the shield, but also because he's somehow able to have all the weapons, which is strange. After this, they then go on the road trying to get away, as pretty much trying to escape the people's ability, or trying to escape the kind of Melmarak soldiers and the forces, with the rest of the soldiers and like the heroes tracking them as well. Moriyasu being on them like a dog, trying to hunt them down since he severely hates Naofumi for being just so much better than him. The other two were kind of just dragged along since they are apparently obliged to, and were almost forced to go out. As they're on the road, they take about 3 days, as once again, as in the original series, Melty slips, her falling and Naofumi having to catch her with his airstrike shield. However, everyone heard this as they chase kind of the party until they get to a corner. Everyone explaining that Naofumi is a horrible person, the devil of the shield, Satan spawn, as they all try to attack him. Naofumi, not having any of it, decides to go absolutely crazy and shoots a bunch of swords and stuff at all the people, killing like all of the soldiers, shooting them at Moriyasu as well, but he is able to dodge it, before then getting a gigantic spear and shooting it straight through, shooting it at mine, hitting her straight through the skull, killing her. It's great. After this, he then throws the Three Heroes Church amulet at Rin, telling him to figure it out since he's smart enough. After this, he then jumps off, flying away because he's cool. No, flying away on his airstrike shield, with the rest of the characters going on top of it. As they kind of flying around, Melty kind of explains that they could possibly go and see one of her kind of friends and one of the lords who are very helpful to the different people around, and like helpful to the demi-humans, and just a very nice person in general, called Nobleman Van Richnot. As they are told this, they then fly down, flying on the airstrike shield like it is a flying Nimbus from Dragon Ball, and arriving maybe like an hour or so later. As they arrive, Van Richnot welcomes them with open arms, as kind of Naofumi introduces himself, and they open them up, everyone going in and having a great time. Naofumi just putting a gigantic barrier around putting his pretty much shield around the area, stopping anyone from coming in. Once that happens, they wake up the next day to hear a bunch of lords outside trying to get in. Once he sees this, Naofumi walks out asking what's going on. Everyone saying that he's the devil of the shield and gets everyone to try and attack him. After that, Naofumi decides to have a little bit of fun, spawning an axe in one hand and a sword in the other and going absolutely ham. Slicing down all of the bad guys, slicing down all the soldiers and everybody until he gets to the Lord by the name of Nobleman Idol Rabier, where he grabs him and asks like who he is, and pretty much Raftalia tells Naofumi that this is the man who captured her and kept her in captivity. Hearing that, Naofumi knocks him out and takes them back to the man's manor, where they go down to the place and go down to the what's it called? He goes down to the kind of dungeons and finds a bunch of demi-humans there, which they all free. Raftalia finding her friend, but also seeing that her other friend had died, which makes her sad. Naofumi decides to play a little game as he gives everybody swords so that they can murder Lord Rabier, ripping this man limb from limb like the Romans did to their slaves back when the Roman Empire was still a thing. After this, they then head off, preparing to go back to Van Ryknot's place until Philo hears a voice in her head, suggesting that they go to the lake since the voice told her to. Naofumi saying yeah sure, and the rest of the slaves go back to Van Ryknot's place with Van Ryknot and Multi and everyone else taking them back there, Multi still being with Naofumi but directing them in the right way. Once they get to the lake, they then see something truly amazing, this being the giant Filolial Queen, being a gigantic kaiju Filolial Queen thingy. As they see this, the Filolial then shrinks down into a woman. This woman stating that her name is Fitoria. After she explains this, she pretty much tells Philo straight up, you can be the next Filolial Queen. As this is kind of stated, they are then teleported to the Filolial Sanctuary, where the Filolial Queen Fitoria asks Naofumi how is he so strong, and he just explains that he's built different. And he's just a lot cooler than the rest of the heroes because the rest of them were dumb. As he explains... no, I'm kidding. But he explains that he's just better, apparently. He just levels up a lot quicker. Which she thinks is weird, since the normal heroes shouldn't be able to shoot swords and blades out of a portal. But oh well, she ain't questioning it. As she kind of explains this, she then explains that she wants Philo to be the next kind of Filolial Queen, in which Philo says that she's not really sure, and Fitoria the next morning captures Melty and Naofumi and Raftalia and tells Philo that in order to save them, she needs to at least land a hit on Fitoria or beat her. Fitoria, thinking this through, then says sure and goes at it, charging at Fitoria and landing multiple hits on her, but also getting multiple hits landed on her as well. And she tries to use her magic, trying to put Fitoria down, as she lands 3 solid kicks on Fitoria, slamming her into the ground. In which Fitoria tells Philo that she is truly ready to become the next kind of Filolial Queen once Fitoria's time is over. After this, Fitoria explains that she will summon them to the nearest hero, as Naofumi says, yeah, sure, hoping that it's not Moriyasu, even though he would like to blast his stupid face out of the earth. He can't, because all 4 heroes need to be a thing, apparently. After they are teleported, they then arrive to the wall, seeing that one of the heroes is there, Moriyasu, with someone familiar, kinda shocking Naofumi, this being Mine. How the hang is she still alive? We don't know unless you've read the manga. Once she's kinda there, he is wondering like how is she still alive, and what she doesn't answer, and just puts a giant barrier around them. A giant electrical barrier, and tells Naofumi to fight Moriyasu. Moriyasu immediately charging at Naofumi and the rest of their party. It's kind of Philo and Raftalia go after the rest of the party. They quickly dispatch and destroy all of the other all of the side characters and the other pretty much the other parts of Moriyasu's party, as Naofumi immediately brings out a giant baseball bat and slaps Moriyasu across the face, sending him flying into the electrical cage, kinda knocking the man out for a short period. As this happens, Naofumi explains that they all need to be on the same picture, or else they won't be able to defeat the waves. As he explains this, Philo then explains that something big is coming. Naofumi, hearing this, looks up and senses and looks up to see a gigantic blast coming towards them. As he sees this, he puts up a gigantic airstrike shield above them, covering not only them but the wall as well. It's being a solid few, maybe 20 to 100 meters in kind of diameter. As he puts that up, he then puts extra levels into Philo and Raftalia, making them level 80. These people are overpowered. This what if shouldn't be a thing, but it is. So as that happens, the blast hits the airstrike shield. As Moriyasu expects Naofumi to almost be struggling, but he's not. As Naofumi, he pretty much has the airstrike shield, he gets Raftalia and Philo to go after it. Raftalia jumping up and putting two light kind of balls in her hands, before then slamming them together and shooting out a gigantic beam. A yellow beam blasting into the other bigger yellow beam before starting to push it back. Philo then using some of her magic to blast the beam back, and it is slowly dispersed. As that is seen, there is a giant hole blasted through the wall of the big giant wall that was beside them. As they see that, they see the Pope is there with a big plethora of his followers. As they see the Pope, Naofumi realizes that this could be a problem, giving Raftalia and Philo another class upgrade. Not sure if that's possible, but it happens because he's awesome. And he is a hacker man who can do literally anything. As he sees the Pope then tells and flaunts at them, saying that even though the shield hero isn't really the shield hero, and that he is kind of disobeying the laws of the world, he shall not be strong enough to defeat him, as the Pope is all-powerful, and he will be able to defeat them easily. As that happens, the Pope then summons another blast, shooting it straight at them, with Raftalia and Philo using a kind of double beam, using a double Kamehameha and other blasts, blasting at the beam back. Naofumi using his kind of swords, pretty much the gates of Babylon, shooting the swords towards the Pope. The Pope having to angle the kind of beam up to block the swords as the beam dissipates, and so do the swords. As that happens, Rin and Itsuki then arrive. The Pope freaking out, explaining like they're supposed to be dead, and Naofumi being like, bro, you thought these guys were dead? They're too cool to die. I don't know what I'm doing with the series, but oh well. As that happens, Rin and Itsuki explain like that we're supposed to die, but they didn't because the Queen saved them. As that happens, the Pope is like, oh, you guys are infuriating, as he puts up his giant cathedral ability thingy, and the pretty much domain expansion from Jujutsu Kaisen, if you've seen that, but cathedral wise. As that happens, he then taunts, explaining that all of his kind of followers are giving him power and his followers are endless. Therefore, his power is endless. Naofumi then raising an eyebrow. Oh, so your power comes from your followers. Funny thing, as they then hear screams from outside. Outside, with the queen, as she arrives seeing the cathedral, then looking up to see giant portals above the followers as millions of swords, spears and other weapons fly down, destroying all of the Pope's followers, murdering them all. As that happens, the Pope, back in the cathedral, the Pope charges another attack, using his kind of ability, his morphing sword, shield, spear, pretty much holy weapon that isn't a holy weapon, uses that to try and attack them, with Raftalia using pretty much jumping on a sword like the Silver Surfer, flying up towards the bad guy, running up towards the thingy, towards the Pope, then shooting a kind of blast, a light blast towards the Pope, jumping on said light blast, then using a sword grabbing her sword and making it a giant energy sword. As the Pope tries to put up a shield, the blast curves around the Pope as she slices him down, slicing at him, cutting across his kind of arm, injuring him a bit, as Philo jumps up, using her claws, getting giant energy claws, and slicing at him, slicing up the blade and the holy weapon, breaking it slightly, as Naofumi jumps up and uses a bunch of swords, weapons, and axes, and just throws them like Mineta throws his balls from My Hero Academia. He just pulls them out of nowhere, just throwing them at him, as it slowly goes at him, stabbing into him, spears and swords and other things stab into the Pope, kind of just murdering him. Before then, Naofumi just puts his hands up as a gigantic portal appears above the cathedral. As that happens, a gigantic spear shoots down, shattering through the cathedral and destroying the Pope, blasting him into oblivion. As that happens, the cathedral goes down and the Queen arrives, saying, "Heyo, what's good? It's me." As that happens, she kind of is wondering what is going on, like how did that happen, then seeing Naofumi and understanding that this guy is on another level. After this, all the characters are taken back to the Queen's kind of capital, and the Queen takes them all back to the capital, where the King and Mine are pretty much judged for their sins, them being put into a kind of bad situation where they're about to be executed, but Naofumi steps in saying, nope, that's not how they should be called, like, the king should be called trash and rubbish and poo, and mine should be called whore and bitch and all that stuff. After this, pretty much they have a big council meeting between the four heroes and the Queen. Naofumi then explaining to them and admitting that he doesn't just level up quickly, he's just built different and it was a hacker. Like, in his old life, like, he was robbing the biggest, he was like, pretty much governments knelt before him. He was robbing the biggest bank in Japan before he got here. He was an absolute Chad. As all the heroes are kind of confused by this, but Moriyasu is saying, no, like, you're a horrible person, and the other two are like, well, you're the one who kind of stitched us all up multiple times. Naofumi was an absolute Chad and defeated the Pope, not letting us really do anything, which was great. Being honest, he could probably do everything on himself, or by himself, and Naofumi just, you know, I'm saying, like, yeah, that's true, like, he's pretty much a cool guy. As that all happens, they then go to the kind of, they're then kind of told to go to the archipelago area, where they then are told to do different training. Over this time, as they get there, Naofumi and his party pretty much just chill out, as Naofumi levels everyone up to level 100 immediately, because he's just cool like that, giving them multiple other character kind of classes and just leveling them up to the max so that they are ultimately awesome. As this happens, Philo is swimming in the ocean as she discovers that there is a hourglass or some sort of strange building here. As that happens, Naofumi then jumps into the water with Raphtalia and Philo as he creates a big bubble around them with a shield. As this happens, they go down into the bubble, or into the area, and they go down into the strange building, and realizing that there is a hourglass there. This hourglass saying that there is going to be a wave in the next 48 hours. As this is happening, they kind of meet these two people called Lark and Therese, and they explain that they are quite strong warriors or adventurers or whatever, and they're quite worried since Naofumi and his party aren't doing anything, and they're just chilling out, thinking, was Glass like not overreacting? Is he actually that strong? As a few days or 48 hours later, they are all on the boats as Naofumi warns the Queen that this was going to happen, and they all get ready for the wave as the wave begins. As the wave begins, the entire world goes red and pretty whack crazy. As that happens, everyone is kind of freaking out, thinking that the wave is happening as all the boats are teleported into the middle of the ocean, as big giant monsters appear. As that happens, the big monsters try and board the ships, but before anyone can react, giant shields and spears and spikes and swords appear everywhere, slicing all the monsters down, as Raphtalia and Philo also come along and chop all the monsters up. As that happens, they then see the gigantic monster that is there, the gigantic sea monster, and Naofumi, wanting to end this quickly, uses a giant airstrike shield. However, it is not an airstrike shield, a normal airstrike shield, it is a kind of bladed airstrike shield. As he shoots it towards the giant sea creature, it jumping up into the air, and its pretty much head getting removed from the rest of its body, it being decapitated by the shield and it dying there. Everyone completely shocked, especially Lark and Therese, since they're kind of freaking out, thinking like, whoa, this guy's actually really strong. After that, they have no choice, but as Naofumi and everyone's kind of praising and cheering, they realize the wave isn't over, as the rest of the heroes are blasted away by Lark as he uses his abilities to slice him down. Therese uses her gem, which Naofumi still gave her because he's a nice guy, and she uses it to blast all the characters away, apart from Naofumi and his party. As that happens, Lark kind of reveals his scythe, and Naofumi is really excited, thinking like, and he says like, yo, you have scythes too? Bro, that's so sick. Like, I got these as well. Like, what should I use? Should I use a fire scythe, my ice scythe, lightning scythe? That's pretty cool. Rock scythe. I could use my poison scythe or decay scythe, or nature scythe. That would be cool as well. Or even better, I could use all of them at once, as his strange scythes appear in his hands, covered in rock, ice, water, lightning, fire, nature, poison, decaying stuff. Just everything you could think of is appearing on these scythes, as Lark, it just feels disrespected. As this man ain't having a good day. As that happens, Naofumi just tempts them to come at him as they both charge at him. Raphtalia and Philo going after Therese and putting their hands on her, absolutely beating on her, but not really trying to kill her, just chilling out really, kind of just toying with her really, with Naofumi just toying around with Lark, kind of just bullying him really, as he's just playing around, explaining that while like they could just help defeat or help save both worlds instead of playing picky choosy and having to pick one world over the other, they could take down both worlds or save both worlds. As this happens, they then hear a familiar voice as they see Glass trying to attack Naofumi, but Naofumi, I was about to say something a bit sus, but I'm not going to say it, as Naofumi pretty much attacks Glass as well, beating on her as well, but woman beating, just nope. Anything I say will sound a bit sus in this day's society, but oh well. As that happens, Naofumi then pretty much explains to them while tying them all up in his kind of chain prison or whatever. He explains to them all that they can save their world and save his world as well. As that happens, they all kind of agree, and that happens like that. Pretty much, and then the wave ends, with the rest of them being dragged back up into the sky. Everyone knowing that Naofumi is the hacker hero and is the absolute best in the world. No one can stop him. He is a legend.